All right, welcome back to One Bills Live here at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Chris Brown, Steve Tasker, pleased to be joined now by NFL Network draft analyst. Actually, you analyze the entire league.
Yeah, everything.
Right.
Former front office executive Marc Ross
10,000-foot
joining us here. And we want to remind you, Ticketmaster is the title sponsor of this year's NFL Scouting Combine coverage. Ticketmaster, the official ticketing partner of the NFL and the Buffalo Bills. All right, how you doing here, Mark? We're getting right back into it.
It's wonderful.
The season ended, and here we go.
Yeah, this is great. Solving everybody's problems here in these 3 hours, and so I feel good.
Yeah, that's great.
Stuff we can run by you. Yeah.
I wanted to begin with top priorities in your estimation for the Bills, because aside from becoming cap compliant, which just about everybody in the league's got to do these days, because everybody seems to be over, even though the cap went up a lot bigger than people expected. What do you see as kind of like top off-season priorities for the Bills, especially in light of the way the season ended, in Kansas City?
That's you're so close. I mean, I know you guys going through this every year, and it's so close.
Can't get over the hump.
What is it to get over the hump? And I really don't think it's a player or it's just circumstances to get y'all over. You have the team. You have the team. You saw it. I mean, you're not watching that game and saying, if we just had that, we'd beat them. Like, you had them. You had them beat.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part.
And that's the frustrating part about having that happen a couple of years out of 5 that we've been there. You know?
It'd be one thing if you got bulldozed on the,
Sure.
they run down your throat or something. Okay, you got to get stout up front. Or
even have a game like the Chiefs did in the Super Bowl. I mean, there's none of those games on the resume.
So just keep building it and trying to get good players in there and attack the best value where you are as far as don't overspend in free agency and where you're sitting down there at 30 and let's just take the best player here and throughout the draft and just keep building that talent level and then hopefully it'll come.
The common narrative for Buffalo is, when the regular season Super Bowl was over, the Bills scored more points than any team in the league. Mm-hmm. They knocked it out of the park offensively. Came in with a lot of question marks on that side of the ball, the skill positions, but their offensive line was back. It stayed healthy. They ran the ball extremely well. They were like 49% to 51 runs, so they were balanced on the offensive side of the ball, and they can run it back now too, as where they couldn't last year. In a bigger measure, they can run it back even at the skill positions. So it kind of, during the narrative this offseason, kind of focuses on the defensive side of the ball. You got some contracts you got to replace, some one-year deals that you got to replace. The roster's depleted, and luckily, this draft class shows up.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. And I think when I did watch the Bills last year, I think another couple of cover guys could take it to another level. This is a strong group of corners, in my opinion, just guys I've evaluated. Another pass rusher there. I know some of those young guys have shown flashes, but haven't really produced the consistency like y'all have wanted. So that there's a good group there. You can get someone to hit on, and I think with Sean being a defensive guy, get that side of the ball. And as you mentioned about the offense, it's just all the question marks coming into the season, especially with the receiver group. And I saw Adam Henry this morning, your receiver coach I work with at the Giants, and said, man, you should have been the coach of the year with what you did with that group there with all the question marks coming in there. The offense is going to be stellar again. And, of course, the Cook situation, work that out. But as long as Josh is back there, you're going to be at this level in the top 2 or 3 in the league. Is just – can you get to that level?
All right, so let me pose this to you, because you said the edge class is pretty good, cornerback class is pretty good, defensive tackle class is good, and they're going to need 1 or 2 of those because you got some older players aging out. You got some free agents at that position for the Bills as well. We saw the Chiefs back in 22 with that Trent McDuffie class basically rebuild their defense with 1 draft class. They rebuilt it.
Yeah.
Is this class deep enough at edge, defensive tackle, and corner for the Bills to do something similar with what's anticipated to be 10 picks?
Here's the thing, and we saw the Eagles last year as well. Their secondary with Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, and even the last 4 years, you got to hit on the picks. That's the philosophies. Yeah. Everybody has a philosophy. Everybody
got to pick the right guys
over there. You just got to hit on them, and there's no secret to it. You hit on the players. It doesn't matter where you take it. Who you're taking or what you're taking, it's going to help your team if you crush these picks. So, yes, in theory, you can, but you have to hit on these picks.
Yeah, that brings up a theory. We were just talking to Greg Cosell, who's, he comes on with us once in a while, and, we all know Greg.
Yeah.
And we were talking about getting a guy in this draft, and the Bills have a great guy that's a perfect example of this in Christian Benford, 6th-round guy, but he fits the scheme. Right. He's got the traits, and he fits the scheme. In your view, how big a mesh point is there between getting a guy who is going to be the right character, the right skill set, and then finding a guy who he may just bail out of this team. He may fail with their team, but in this defense, he excels. How big a thought process is that, and how big a factor is that?
Well, it's always great, in the lower rounds, the mid to lower rounds, to get those guys. Okay, do they fit? What do they do well for us? How can we use them? But really, the important thing is the first and second round. You got to get impact players.
Yeah,
and that's really what you're looking at with the Bills over the last 4 years. Have they gotten enough impact players in the first and second round? And when you look at that, you have to say no. That's been, if they hit on even half of those guys, you might be in a different situation.
They're very good players, but not elite players.
Impact elite
players. And I'll say this too. Greg told us this, and we hear this all the time. How many guys are truly first-round talent? Greg said, in his estimation, this year maybe only 10.
Yeah.
But you got to draft 32 in the first round.
Right.
And the Bills are all, this year they're 30th. Last year they were 28th. The year before that they were 20. They traded up to get to 3.
Yeah.
So it's, even though you may be in the first round, there may not be a guy who's a game wrecker or a game changer in that round. But like I said,
pick somebody.
You got to pick somebody.
You got to take it, and then if you can get a very good player at 30, that helps your team. But there's always that. Just because you're picking 30 doesn't mean the guy you take isn't better than the guy that taking at 15. So there still is that. Hey, this guy's better than all these guys that got taken. We made the right selection here.
Being a former front office guy, we saw a contract extension for Khalil Shakir Tuesday. I'm not certain the contract will help them in terms of easing the cap burden. We'll have to wait and see how it's structured. But Brandon Beane did say the other day that extensions could help them with their cap situation going forward, leading us to believe there are more on the horizon here with their young core, whether it's James Cook, Terrell Bernard, maybe Greg Rousseau, who's on his fifth-year option with a fatter number than maybe they want. Question for you is, knowing they're about $10 million over right now as it stands, perhaps even more with the Shakir extension, how many extensions for players in their young core do you believe are realistic, knowing their cap constraints? How did you always kind of navigate that?
Yeah, well, that was, you have to prioritize, and that's what you do when you got your whole staff together there with your cap guy, and you're talking about, all right, well, here's our blue chip guys, here's our green, here's our red, here's our expendables. And that's really what Brandon is looking at with Sean and saying, we can't lose this group here, this top tier group. We have to keep these guys around. We'll try to get something done with this mid tier group. If we lose one or two, we're okay. And then these guys, these contracts we can get rid of. They're not helping us. They're not worth whatever we're doing. Let's cut this to help out the cap.
All right, so let me give you a couple of those names. You tell me where you might slot them, okay? You already know Shakir's in the fold. All right, for the next four. We got James Cook, Christian Benford, Greg Rousseau, Terrell Bernard.
Cook, Benford, keep Cook.
Keep
Cook, and the rest are in that mid group.
Okay, so maybe somewhere between green and red for you?
Yeah.
Okay. What I was going to ask you was, give us an idea too of, is there guys already on the right, like some guys who have been blue chippers for your squad, but like a guy like Matt Milano, who's a blue chipper, all pro level linebacker, but now you're starting to question, is he going to be available to us for 17 weeks a year? He's been injured the last couple of years. When he's in there, he's a difference maker.
Yeah.
But he has a hard time.
Older and injured, I say this every year, is a bad combination. Yeah. And they don't get better. They don't get younger, and they don't get healthier. And that's, unfortunately, the nature of, I first, back in Philly back in the day, and our Joe Banner was our cap guy there, and it was like 30. When you hit 30, and you're like, okay, we got to move on from these guys, for better or for worse. And then when you start adding the injuries onto those older guys, it's like, all right, we know Matt's done so much for us. You can't let your heart get involved.
That's a
with
hard
the
decision, and it's also hard to sell to your fan base and to an owner
who
loves the guy. The whole thing, man.
I've seen so many mistakes with those heart and soul guys with contracts. I've seen it over and over again. You have to separate the player from the person when you're doing that.
All right, so we've got the big one, the Josh Allen contract. Also, it's at a point where it's not fair market value for the league MVP. Josh isn't banging down Brandon Beane's door saying, pay me more money, like maybe Matt Stafford is in L.A. How as a front office man, do you navigate the most important contract on your roster that is also going to be the most expensive?
Well, what is he, like 10th or something now?
He's like $43 million a year.
Yeah, he's like way down. So you have to really, and it's a good thing he isn't complaining yet, but you always have to hopefully be ahead of that now. And, of course, whatever you pay Josh Allen, it's worth it. So you have to look at it like that, whatever you're paying. It doesn't matter whether it's $500 million. You got to pay him, and you have to keep him, and you have to build your roster like that. Can you get a discount for him? I don't know. I doubt it. But
or maybe structure it in a way that allows you to do a couple of other things still to keep the talent around him.
To do that the way that the Patriots used to do with Brady and how. So hopefully you can work those things out.
Yeah, and you can be as creative as you want to be if the player's willing to work with you. Say, for instance, like if you're going to sign the guy to like a Pat Mahomes $500 million deal, and you guarantee him out of $500 million, $388 million, but you can say, I'll give it to you when you're 50.
Right. You have to have both sides of it for sure to work together. And it seems as if Josh would be that sort of player.
So you really got to
organization.
You got to put some creative people on it to help you as long as you can while he's in the fold.
Correct.
And
Correct.
Defensive tackle and edge, two strong positions in this year's class. We know that there are shifting trends in the league that sometimes happen in terms of player position value, position flex, hybrid type positions, and those kinds of things. I've heard from more than one person this week talk about how with the ball getting out of the hands of the quarterback so quick nowadays, whether it's bubble screens or other things, it's harder for edge rushers to make a major impact on the game because they can't get there in time.
Right.
And so some teams are talking about maybe we should shift the priority to a penetrating defensive tackle. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Are you hearing some of that? And is there merit to maybe shifting your focus to a penetrating 3 technique over an impact edge rusher because of the way the passing game is going?
Yeah, well, get them all.
Well, right, but if you can only get one,
Super Bowl champ, you saw what they just did. They saw what they just did. They got everybody all.
More is better,
and that was really with the.
But
Giants,
is there merit to that argument?
Where they just keep loading up here, and just keep getting them as many as you can, but yes, that has been sort of the. And even more so, get more defensive backs to take the pressure off of the. So you can't get there because they're the ball's coming out quick and the game has changed the way they run offense. But to me, you still wherever you get that guy and he's your focal point, then he can impact and raise the level of the rest of the front there.
Just got a guy that lines up there.
The inside. So it's
all right.
Just keep loading up.
All right, you show up here, combine. Last one from me. What's your focus when you come into this thing and you see these guys come in? What do you really look for these guys?
From a team perspective or now with the when I'm with the NFL Network?
No,
I'm just eating snacks.
Put yourself in a head coach GM kind of spot.
I always, the most important part for this was the interview portion.
Right.
The on-field stuff, these guys, especially now, they're trained so much to do these drills. It's not even realistic anymore. It never really was to what they did on the field to how they played in games. And there's been so many guys get fooled because of that. For me, of course, the medical stuff is important, but we talk about that later with our medical docs. Like either pass or fail the guy, let's move on. It's really getting the interview process and how these players handle themselves when they get in the room and answer questions. Maybe some of them have had issues, how they talk through that, getting them on the board, talking football, for sure. Okay, they can process it or not. That's the fun part is the interview process.
Right, yeah.
Mark, thanks for the time as always. We appreciate it. We'll catch up with you down the line here in the offseason.
Always my favorite.